Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's Better on Draft.
Hello and welcome to Better on Draft, episode 361. I am your host, Rob, and with me today is Wendy. Hello, Wendy. How are you? What are you drinking?
I am up to the letter U today on my alphabet. So I have a Transient Artisan Ales Ultra Moist, which part of the reason I picked it is because I love the word moist.
Noise.
Moist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most people hate it, but I think it's hilarious. And if you say it, it will normally make people chuckle. Just drop it into a random conversation.
It's definitely one of those words people have an opinion on. No one is really neutral on.
So what are you drinking?
Today I have Qualified by Taxman, which is not the letter I am on. Because I drank A through W all in one day at the beer festival, as is tradition. There was no X beer there, but it was a pretty good day. I had an X beer ready to go, and as I was preparing for the show, my wife drank it out of the refrigerator from underneath me.
Oh no!
Yeah, so I will have to go.
It's a jalapeno beer. I'm not really sure how I feel about that.
Interesting. Mine is 13th anniversary by Oddside. Which is XII.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I kind of screwed myself with my letter Q because I bought the La Trappe quadruple, not thinking about the fact that La Trappe is not the name. It is the name of the brewery, but it's owned by a larger brewery. So when they put it in Untapped, it's the macro brewery's name, and then La Trappe.
We fix a lot of those. I wouldn't call it cheating because a lot of them, like Chocovesa is one of my favorite X beers. I didn't see it on shelves, but it's in Untapped as Stone Chocovesa. It's still an X beer. It says right there in great big letters on the can. It starts with an X. Stone is the brewery. It should count as an X beer. So, yeah, your La Trappe would have counted. We're pretty generous that way.
I got my 5 point, or I didn't get my 5 points in there, so I'm just kind of bummed, but that's right, because the next two beers I got 13 points each, so.
So I have my scores up right now, Ardwolf 98, and all of these beers that I have had were all in one day at Winterfest in downtown Indianapolis. So it was a very good day. There was no X beer there. Which was unfortunate. You'll see that my N was noise.
So unlike me, you were doing it in smaller sample sizes, which
yes.
is why I'm a little behind you.
Yes. I also waited until near the end. And then we have Wendy here, who has, I think that you were through S last we checked.
Yep. I have to check in T and U today.
Yeah, we'll fix this La Trappe. You'll get your 5 points for it being the first letter. And so for people, so just to kind of catch people up, we on the Untapped Discord, we have been drinking the alphabet for, I don't know how long it's been now, a lot of years, 7 years maybe, for a long time, in February, because there's 28 days in February, there's 26 letters in the alphabet, and then we end with a number and a symbol. You can see here on our scoreboard, and we give out points. We consider it hard mode if all of your beers start with the appropriate letter. That's worth 5 points. Now, in our current iteration, every word in the beer and brewery name that starts with the appropriate letter gets you 2 points, and every time the letter shows up in the beer and brewery name, you get 1 point. So we've got quite a few points. You can see that we've got a few people playing. I really need to fix the formatting on this page, but this is our current scoreboard. Hey, I'm in third place right now with 230 points and 23 drinks. And Wendy's about to get 5 more points as soon as I get around to fixing that.
When I checked yesterday, I was in fourth place right behind you, so.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like Lazy Pyro is catching up.
People are drinking their alphabet today.
Yep. There's still time. We're only halfway through February if you're watching us live. I'm not sure how far through February if you listen to the podcast. But yeah, you're welcome to join us or play on your own. It's pretty fun.
It's been interesting. It's given me a goal.
Right. I find that's just kind of one of the things. It's interesting. It points to another way to choose your next beer. Yeah, it definitely was fun at a festival.
The guys at my beer store think I'm crazy, though.
Yeah, you wait. They're going to start drinking their beers alphabetically soon.
They did have fun trying to help me find a couple.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Have you had the experience yet where you're standing at their shelves and you're really wishing that it was arranged alphabetically?
Yes. Oh yeah. And then,
Which
or
be
when
the
you
worst
find
way.
one, like I was on B and I saw the X, and then I couldn't find the X when I went back to it.
Yes.
I was like, damn it, where was that?
That's the hard mode at the beer festival. Winterfest is kind of a long setup, and yeah, you have to remember. I saw a J and a Q pretty early in the day, so I had to remember where they were and hope that I got to those letters before the beers ran out, because that's another thing to consider at the
Right.
festivals. So yeah, but it is fun to do it that way. So anyway, that was Drinking the Alphabet. Today is going to be a news show. As you can see, we don't have a guest with us. So we're going to get caught up on 2024 news, 2025, how it's going. Let's see what
Sounds
we
good
have
to
to
me.
talk about. When did you have an article you want to start with?
Well, we might as well start with wrapping up the 2024 stuff that I had found. I've actually had it in here for a few weeks. I wanted to bring it up. Greg Hall, formerly of Goose Island, who was on our show. I didn't look up what number he was on. He was on the show a few years ago when we had Goose Island and Virtue Cider on the show together, and it was right after Goose Island, or not Goose Island, right after AB and Bev had purchased Virtue Cider. So the news, though, is that he has purchased it back from AB and Bev, which I thought was pretty cool. He has a few things that he wants to do that's different than AB and Bev, like bringing back the 760 milliliter bottles and the Virtue Cider Club. He said he wants to focus more on direct to consumer, and Virtue will be more selective with its retail partners. He doesn't want to just sell shelf space with glorified juice boxes. I do not know who he's referring to. The renovations for 2025 include a kitchen with a rotisserie, because he wants to lean into being more of a French farmhouse cidery, which I think is really cool. So the communal tables will remain, but one of the cool things that I saw in the article was that he wants customers to be able to order a picnic basket with a chicken and a few bottles of cider. So I think he's looking at more of making it, taking cider a little bit seriously. Like how Napa Valley treats wine, I can imagine it being like a destination rather than just a stop on the way home or on the way to the next place.
Yeah, have you been to this location before?
I believe that I have,
Okay.
but I didn't record it, so I don't necessarily remember.
Right.
I'm
Yes.
interested in going, especially with all the changes that they've been talking about.
All the things that you just mentioned, like the family style tables, the picnic basket, those all sound like a lot of fun to me, and I would like to go check it out because it sounds like
Right?
they're doing something interesting.
Right. And I think he mentioned somewhere in there that he sees Southwest Michigan as becoming an escape for gourmands, because there's a bunch of different um, eateries that have been opened, and Middlebrow Brewing has plans to open a location in Sawyer. So he's looking at making that part of Michigan a destination, which I think is pretty cool. It's always
Yeah.
great when there's a lot of stuff to do in an area, so you can go and spend a weekend in that area and check out a few different places rather than just, I'm going here for this one spot.
Right. Yeah, that sounds It sounds like a place I want to visit.
So, and I did love the cider that he sent us. I would usually pick Virtue, if I saw it in the stores. So, I don't buy cider a lot, but I do get excited when people are that passionate about the product that they're making. And
Yes.
talking to him, you can definitely tell that he's passionate about it.
I actually was at a cider place on Sunday, last Sunday. Went to Ash and Elm downtown and they have a really nice menu down there. I can strongly recommend it to anyone who's coming through town who wants cider. They have a good menu. I had a Cuban um, sandwich, which it's a good Cuban for what you're going to get around here. And other people had other sandwiches, but they've got pretty varied menu for food. And I had an Earl Grey cider that was just really delicious. I ended up getting 2 of them because it was just so good. Um, but the weirdest thing happened while we were there having a nice family meal. A man showed up at the table next to us, put down this great big sign that said "Feathers and Fermentations," which we had to ask about it. And he does a bird watching tour combined with a beer bus 4 times a year.
What?
And so they meet at Ash and Elm. So Feathers and Fermentation, if anyone's interested, he said his next one's in April. They meet at Ash and Elm. They do a bird discussion. They drink, at cider to start. And then the way beer buses work here, I don't know if they work this way everywhere. You can get beer to go from places like Ash and Elm or breweries. Drink it on the bus as long as the drivers are, certified to drive people who are drinking. And that includes growlers and stuff. You can open those up and pour them and just have a wonderful time getting to your destination. The way he does it. So this one, because it's winter, they were headed to Eagle Creek Park up near me. It has an ornithology center, which they have a really cool setup, a couple cool setups for looking at birds in the area. Like there's bald eagles and red-tailed hawks and stuff that are active this time of year. So they go there, and then they went to a brewery that I've heard of but never been to, a tiny little brewery afterwards. So the way they do the beer bus is just one brewery, and then they end up again at the cidery. They usually go to a park or something, and we'll do a bird trail, and he'll point out birds. I think it's more than saying that's a bird and that's a bird. I think it's more like which kind of bird you're seeing or hearing.
Sure. I have an app that I can point at the bird, and it will also pick out the sounds that the bird is making as well.
Okay.
So I am actually looking this up to see if it will fit in my schedule. Because I am all about that.
If I remember the dates right and my mental calendar right, the April one is during the craft beer conference, which is also downtown.
I'm hoping to be in that area for that. So.
Okay. I have a media pass for it, and I'm very excited.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Excellent. Bats McGee has spotted a great tit. So anyway, that was where I went with the cider article.
I think it's awesome. You totally just made my night because now I have a new tour that I can do. I tend to watch the birds in my backyard while I'm drinking a beer anyways, so it all works out for me.
Right.
So what do you got for?
I am going to start with a little bit of a rant.
Okay.
Not so much a rant as just a kind of a there's a couple of big news topics out there. I asked around the community what people were interested in, and I had some ideas already in mind, and they confirmed 2 of them. So one of them, I'm going to start with the recently announced aluminum tariffs. The potential tariffs was more than just aluminum; it was aluminum and steel. Yes. And how this is going to affect us, because that's what we care about is us. But one of the big things that that I was reading. So I've got a few headlines here. Central Oregon Daily said aluminum tariffs could increase craft beer prices. CNN said that craft beers are brewed in steel and canned in aluminum. They could get crushed by tariffs. The Maine Public said that Maine's craft brewing industry braces for aluminum tariffs. Reuters had an article that I thought was more interested than those than just, the doom and gloom, that the tariffs are almost certainly going to raise the price of producing a can of aluminum, because we do import most of our aluminum. Reuters said that the beer, not tariffs, will boost the U.S. aluminum capacity, which I thought was kind of interesting. That was a different take on it. And what they are saying, I don't think I have that article. Yeah, I don't have that article queued up. But what they're saying in that case is, we don't recycle our cans enough as it is now. The peak recycling amount was something like 47%, if I remember the numbers right. And currently we're down around 30%. I'm interested in how it works in Michigan because of the deposit, the bottle deposit on cans, and if that does increase it or not, how often things get recycled. But we have a huge domestic source of aluminum in our beer cans, and that's where Reuters went with the article and the idea. So it could become the case that there's a lot more incentive for a push for reminders for us to recycle our beer cans.
I've been saying for years that I wish that there was a place where we could go, because I bring a lot of beer in from out of state. And it's really hard for us to find some place. Like, I can recycle it with my regular recycling, but if my trash goes in with somebody else's trash that gets, or my recycling gets it put in the bin with somebody else's that is contaminated with something, mine gets thrown away too. So I wish that there was a place that we could go to just recycle those cans like that. Maybe we'll finally see something like that happen now.
Yeah, it would be. It's always financial incentives that kind of drive these things, and there could be financial incentive for example, for breweries to collect cans and pass them on that way. I would feel better because, yeah, mine is just a mixed stream. In Indiana, we do not do deposits on our cans and call it a bottle deposit. We don't do any deposit on it, so it's just goes into the mixed stream recycling at the curb.
So something that this is a good question for all of our knowledgeable people out there. I could look it up on the internet, but I would like to see if anybody knows the answer to this. So if a store sells that can, they're supposed to take it back. Do breweries not have to take their cans back?
Yeah, I guess not.
Because if I buy a beer at my local brewery, I have to pay the 10-cent deposit. Sometimes I can't necessarily take them back because they don't distribute.
It makes you wonder what the deposit is. How does the deposit work up there these days? Can I just bring in a pile of my Indiana cans and get 10 cents for each?
No, because everything is, you have to scan it through the scanner.
Oh, okay.
But like some of the party stores that I go to, party stores, you can tell where we're from. Some of the beer stores that I go to, they don't have a scanner. So you just tell them how many cans you have. So I'm sure people could scan them that way.
Yeah, that's the way I remember it. That's the way the Seinfeld episode works with the
Right.
them using Newman's mail truck. Yes.
But I mean, I never did that because I want the beer stores to stay in business.
Right. Yeah, you kind of wonder how that all works out, because there's a lot of, I bought a bunch of beer the last time I was up there, well, 2 times ago, and I'm not returning those. That would be that would be a pain in my butt to drive up there with a bunch of empty cans, get my 10 cents back.
Right.
And a lot of those I gave away.
Depends on how many you buy.
Right. Yeah, well, and a lot of those I gave away in advent calendars, so I don't even have them.
So yeah, I totally agree with that. That I think that is true. That is an opportunity.
Yeah, we'll go with what Mutbone is saying, that most breweries do not charge you the deposit if you buy from the brewery,
I don't know
which
about
is
that. Every brewery I've been to, I'm pretty sure that it's a state law that if you sell something that's carbonated, you have to have charge the deposit on it.
hmm.
But I'll look that up.
Yeah, it's worth following up. We'll see what we can figure out. When I was little and my brother was little, so the early 80s, we would go to construction sites in the area where they're building houses and stuff, and we would collect all of the bottles and cans. Um, at that time, glass bottles were pretty common, and they had a 10-cent deposit, and so we'd return those. Those were like a gold mine. But then the cans, we had a can crusher, and we would spend hours crushing the cans that we found and just fill giant garbage bags full of cans, and take them to the recycler, and that one paid by the pound. I don't remember what it paid. The 10-cent deposit one was easy, and that was great. But the recyclers, it didn't pay much. But after a few months of that, we bought a pinball machine.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was good stuff.
I don't know that I've ever collected enough bottles to buy something that big.
Well, we had no other, way to or things to spend our money on, just candy or whatever. But that was
That's true.
that was what allowance was for.
But we did do bottle and can drives for everything when I was in school. Pretty sure that's the way I went to band camp for 4 years of high school.
Yeah, it was okay. So Mutbone is doing our internet research for us, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Michigan 73% bottle return rate for 2023. That is pretty impressive.
Well, I mean that if you think about it, I've got a garbage bag full of cans down there that's probably going to bring me about $30.
Right, it's worth it.
Well, no, it's probably not 30. It's probably more like 20. But it's not one garbage can. If
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of how many you could probably there. It's probably about $5 or $6 per bag, maybe.
yeah. Well, I was going to say it can't be like that would be 3,000 cans, cans
Right.
and bottles. But really, it ends up being just it's your next set of deposits when you
True.
buy more of them.
Truth. The thing is, though, is that I don't normally buy beer at the grocery store anymore because the grocery store sells the beers that I'm not drinking on a regular basis.
The grocery store sells the beers that are I want a beer tonight. I wouldn't normally have a beer. I don't want a treat or anything. I just want, drink a beer and watch a TV show or something.
Right.
It sells those kinds of beers for me.
Like a High Life.
Like a High Life. Yeah. It would be more like so La Maison from Taxman would be one of those for sure. And it's a delicious saison. So, but like this qualified is sold at the grocery store nearby too.
Man, you got all the good stuff.
So,
Anyways, what else you got?
what else do I have?
You had another rant.
Well,
You said you had a couple
yeah,
of rants, so
I have a couple rants. That's right. So
log up on your
that's
on
right.
your soapbox.
My Well, I'm still on my soapbox. This one is less of a rant and more of an observation. And it's about breweries regrouping and consolidating sales, and that seems to be a trend from a while now. And I have a ton of headlines. This one I do have an article to that I thought was a really good article. Um, but I want to start with Stone Brewing. I don't have that article up. I want to start with Stone Brewing, who announced in November that they were going to cease international exports. I think we've mentioned it before. I know I've seen it mentioned around. Stone is currently owned by Sapporo, so them not to distribute internationally is a little interesting. But they said in their announcement that exports only make up 1% of their business, despite their efforts to expand that. And I feel like there were some stone brew pubs in Europe, at least. I thought there were. But still, it's only 1% of their business. They want to refocus on the domestic market. They also killed the Enjoy by IPA line. And some of those were pretty fun, but I think the days of chasing the fresh IPAs probably have died down a little anyway. They said they killed their big bottle releases, by which I think they mean the large format. That'll be unfortunate if I hope they still release Woot Stout because I love that beer. But I do like the great big bottle of that too. It's a great share beer. It's just so much fun to pass around, and it's delicious. They said they're going to focus on delicious IPA in Buenaventura, which sound like two very supermarket beers that we were just talking about, like the kind that you buy because they're cheap to get as a package. They're inoffensive, so you can drink them at any time, but they're not anything exciting. You're not going out and saying, boy, I really want to find a Buenaventura. It would be more like I'm in the mood for a Mexican lager type of a beer.
And is that the first Mexican lager you would go for?
No. I honestly don't know what the first Mexican lager I would go for is either. It's more of a, yeah, I could go for a Mexican lager, and there's one right here.
Right.
I was at Centerpoint a couple weeks ago, and they have a wonderful El Gato Mexican lager, and they will put stuff in it. I think there was a jalapeno El Gato down there last time. So a jalapeno Mexican lager just makes a lot of sense to me, and it was pretty good. But okay, so that's Stone. That's one example of they're kind of consolidating their business. They're pulling out of markets. They're regrouping and figuring out where to be in this kind of in this environment. From WBUR in Boston, we've got, did it feel like a lot of Massachusetts breweries closed this year? Here's why. And this is from December. And the reason why, in that clickbaity headline, was that breweries were closing. They were also consolidating in a bunch reduced distribution. They listed a whole bunch of them. I don't want to go through too many lists of lists. So we'll stick to the list of headlines. Just Drinks, they had a really good article too. I recommend looking them up if you're interested in these sorts of things. But Tilray Brands is considering a U.S. facility consolidation. So Tilray has several beers out there, several brands, but they're looking at consolidating some of their branding. What did I write down for Tilray? No, I didn't write down. I had written down what their brands were because I want to say Sweetwater was one of them, for example, and I really like them. Seacoast Online announced that Smutty Nose and Harpoon brewing companies are merging. So there's just another consolidation. That one was in January of this year.
Which name they were going to go with?
I don't remember. I thought they did, and I don't remember. And I feel like
they have the first.
It's got to be license one. They have the most amazing location there in Boston in the harbor too. Yeah. So I would hope so, but I suspect it's more of that consolidation or that companies merging is more of a moving production, like reducing the production facilities and just putting all of your production into one large facility. I know Harpoon had a large space. Yeah. So they're probably going to have to realign which brands. And I feel like their UFO series, Harpoon's UFO series, had already been kind of cut down, but that might just be because I'm not in that area. So I don't see it anymore. But like I remember seeing so many flavors of that UFO, and I loved it. The blueberry one, if you get it at the right bars, they put blueberries in it. It's really good.
You're a fruit and beer guy?
For a blueberry Hefeweizen, yeah, fruit and beer for sure. The drinks business says Modern Times Brewery closed in consolidation move. This was in November. So they closed one of their facilities. Um, I'm not sure what the extent of that one was. Boston Globe, Jack's Abbey acquires Night Shift Brewing amid craft beer consolidation. That was in October. A publication called Community Impact pointed out that 3 North Houston area breweries announced plans to merge. That was in August. And the last one from this list of headlines is that the Business Journal says Lord Hobo and Maine's Lone Pine merged. They plan to create a new ownership group. So, and that's another one where I don't know what that is going to end up turning into. But that's the same type of idea. And the article I wanted to show is on VinePair. Why don't I see the VinePair article? Okay, well, I'll have to, here it is. VinePair, I thought, did a wonderful article that I recommend checking out if anybody's interested in this part of the industry. I will make sure the link gets in the show notes. But Dave Infante did a wonderful job, I thought, writing about this. I'm going to summarize his points as best I can. But one of them was basically there's nothing wrong with consolidations, and I do tend to agree with that. His point there is that, yeah, breweries and owners, they do get old and they do want to retire at some point. They do need a way out, and sometimes there's just no other option, or this is the most financially sound option. The other thing is that brewers and owners are in this to make money. And sometimes merging your business and consolidating is a way for you to make some money.
What? It's not just for the love of craft beer?
Well, I'm sure there's some purity to it as well. And then one of the things that I loved, I thought it kind of pointed out the whole problem. What is the current innovation? Here's so about this far down, about halfway down in the article, he talks about the innovation. And so that is the question. What is the current innovation in craft beer? What is causing people to want to go chase the new style or the new, whatever they're doing? And there hasn't really been one. There was pastry sours or pastry stouts and pastry sours. So it cuts into some of that chasing and some of that. I'm sure there was an economic boost at that point. And the final point to that economic boost is in this economy, because everything is kind of expensive. Maybe the disposal income isn't quite there. So maybe you don't want to chase whatever the innovation is in craft beer, especially if you have no idea if you'll like it.
No, I agree with that. It's a lot harder for me to spend the extra money that I would have normally spent on new beers that are coming out and beer releases. I mean, I just bought a couple of beer releases. Batch Brewing had their 10th anniversary this weekend. I'm super excited for them. They're amazing. And I picked up some of their anniversary beer, and then some of the punch beer from Eastern Market, and Agma just did a release that I got. So
we might not be the general demographic.
But
like,
the fact
but
that I did that, it's been months since I've gotten a special release like that. There's been quite a few releases that have come out at different breweries that I just haven't had a chance to go get it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a year ago, I would have bent over backwards to get there.
Yeah. Beer Brewery does a quad called Sanitarium, which is delicious. And my buddy and I used to go stand in line and wait for the release, buy our whatever our allotment was, and head home. But that would have been quite some years ago, and now their production is it's much higher, so they make more. They don't run out like they used to, so it feels less scarce. but I've also found I'm just totally skipping years. Like I see it on shelves and I walk by without buying it for the year. And it is quite honestly one of my favorite quads out there. I love that beer. It's really, really good. They do a barrel aged version that is even better. And I have been skipping years of that too. Not even from financial concerns, just my cellar has beer. I don't need to add more beer to my cellar.
That's true. I'm actually working on going through my cellar as well right now. So you'll probably start seeing some posts about that too, because Ed inspired me with his cellar cleanup as well.
I've been watching a lot of his pictures of his cellar cleanup, yes, and
He has some
some
good
hits and
beers,
some
man.
misses. He had some good beers in there, yeah. Yeah, it's a good it's a good feeling when you get to those good beers too. At least when they still are good.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm super excited that I found a couple of bottles of No Rules from like 3 years ago in
Hey,
the
there's
back
no
of my
rules. You can
cellar,
drink those whenever.
and I had no idea that they were there. There's no way that they would have made it. These were like the big bottles. You can't get those anymore because I think 2 years ago they started selling cans. So
Okay.
I mean, these were. I'd have to look up. I think I did look it up, but I don't remember what it was right now. And I was
Hmm.
so excited. I mean,
I
I had to open one right away, of course, because it's No Rules.
right. When I'm coming through I was going through wet January, um, that always involves a lot of cellar cleanup for me. And part of the reason sanitarium is top of the mind is because I did drink my last one. And I think it was a 2018, even something like that. It was ridiculously old. It was still good enough, but it I don't think it needed to age any longer.
Yeah, I found some 2018 beers from Batch that I'm really excited about. A Redemption Road from Arclight, which is a delicious Rocky Road stout. Um, yeah, there's quite a few in there. I've got a Hunapao,
I drank
Huda,
mine.
however you say that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I drank. I'm
there's.
pretty sure I told that story that on one of my work projects, a work colleague just happened to be going to Hunapao Day that weekend when he was home, and he brought us all bottles back when I brought him homebrew. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, so
Anyway, so there have been a lot of consolidations. Feels like the industry is kind of in a regrouping. When I was looking for headlines, there were a lot of articles just talking about various states and guilds going through their numbers, and we've always had more openings than closings, but last year was the first year we had more closings than openings. That seemed to happen in a few states. Um, it might be worth investigating what that breakdown actually is, but I think that we all kind of see it as right now things are consolidating, and it's not even always it's not that adage that the best will survive, um, because some of the breweries closing out there I would consider to be some of the best breweries, um, or at least making some of the best beer. I don't know about business models or any of that, but for some reason they're closing. So I've seen all sorts of things like health problems. Um, the one near me, they closed because their equipment just kept breaking, and they were spending more time fixing their equipment than they were spending brewing beer. And that's not why they wanted to brew beer. So that makes sense. Um, we had a very hard winter for Indianapolis, not for Michigan, a couple of years ago, and one of the breweries on the east side of town, some of their pipes broke, and that was just kind of the final straw. So they closed. A different brewery bought their space, but they closed.
yeah, I would much rather see breweries consolidate than close altogether.
Yeah.
Especially some of the ones on this list. Night Shift Brewing, Harpoon, Modern Times. Those are
Hmm.
all pretty big breweries. I would rather see them merge with somebody else and try to make something good of what they have than just go away altogether.
Yeah, I feel like part of it gets back into that innovation question too, where those are all good breweries. Modern Times is known for what their stouts, right? They're big, flavorful, beautiful stouts. Um, and there's only so much of that market out there, I think. That's not usually a
I
beer.
disagree with that.
I know. I
I
I agree
disagree
that
with
it's
that
one of
on
the
the
best,
stouts, but
but you kind of need a plan when you're gonna be drinking those types of stouts. You kind of need a plan for how the evening's going to go
that's
or
true.
how the evening's going to end. So that's I guess the difference I think or I see in the two.
That is what Uber and Lyft are for.
That is what Uber and Lyft are for. Um, when you get to something like Smutty Nose and Harpoon, and you think about what beers they make, um, there's just Harpoon makes good IPAs. They're UFOs. I loved those. Were some great Hefeweizen made at the scale that they made them at that were available. Um, I'm drawing complete blanks on Smutty Nose, but I know I've had some of their beers, but they still feel kind of.
They've got that brown that's amazing.
Does it have a dog on it? I think it has a
I
dog
think
on
so.
it. Yeah, all their beers I think have dogs.
That's true.
But it just
That
they
is an older brewery, though. That's a
it,
brewery that's been around for a long time, so it's one you don't hear about as much anymore because you have all the new up and comers that come in and take over. That's what I
right.
think. Um, it's kind of like musicians and actors and actresses that you they make a name for themselves and they get that following, but then there's all those new people coming in taking over, and as you have
Yes.
new people that are coming of age, they're trying the new stuff and they're like, oh, my grandpa used to drink that,
Yeah,
or
true.
you know, I hate to say grandpa, but
Well, you're getting
my
into the whole the NA drinks, whether they classify as true competitors for beer or what have you. They are definitely eaten into the market, and
yeah,
there's a whole generational thing with who is mostly drinking those NA beers
that's
and
true.
other NA drinks. Canned cocktails be another one of those. All those ready to drink mixed drinks.
Yeah, and I won't lie, I will pull those out when I see them so that I can try them
Oh sure,
because you never know.
it's a tough market right now.
That's true. What
Okay,
do you?
those were. Oh, go ahead. Well, those were my soapboxes, but I'm happy to, to discuss it more if you want.
Okay, no. Let's talk about something a little more uplifting now.
Yes.
So, in Fat Hill Brewing in Mason City, Iowa, is inviting lovers of beer and song to what it calls a new and exciting musical initiative. It's a beer choir.
I was
And
waiting
I
for you to say
think
that.
this is amazing. Like, I want to be a part of it so bad. Like, my Iowa friends, please tell me you are going to try to figure out how to go here. The participants are going to join together in a fun, informal environment to sing from the beer choir hymnal, which is even better than the term beer choir, which is, it's really just a collection of traditional drinking songs from Europe and America, some popular tunes and hymns, and a handful of adventurous choral songs, all while raising a glass of their favorite beer. So I think this is flippin' fantastic. The person who's putting it together is the director of another community choir. So I just think it, talk about innovative. Like, this is a really fun way to get people out. And as like a DCFC fan, I know how exciting it can be when everybody gets together and sings the same songs.
Yeah, I
You
could
know?
see breweries really going big into a beer choir hymnal,
Yes. Oh my
getting
gosh. Are you kidding? We could have
something
like a.
karaoke like at their, pick their favorite songs out of it and just regularly. Yeah, you could get the regulars to
We could
participate. I
totally
think.
get like an invitational, like all the choirs in high school do, where they go and do competitions. You could totally do like a beer choir competition, and they're all just singing drinking songs. I think
Oh,
that
okay.
would
You're
be
not saying
amazing.
You're not saying bring this down to the high schools, encourage them to
No, I'm
sing
not
about
saying bring
beer.
it down to the high schools. I'm saying
you're,
do it
say,
like the high
you're
school
saying
style
model it.
invitationals, but do it for adults.
Right, okay. That
No,
that
no, we're
sounds
not
more
taking the
legal.
beer songs to the high schools.
Yeah,
Let's be
yeah,
clear. I'm not saying that.
right. We will get investigated if you say that, right?
So I just think that would be awesome. I am the type of person though that thinks life should be more like a musical. I think if people would be a lot happier if random people broke into song and dance around them. So this to me is one of the best articles I've read all year.
I think it's great. It's different from karaoke.
Yes, because
It's got
everybody's
so
singing
much
together.
right. It's got so much more of that community vibe. Yeah, I would participate. I don't know where Mason City is exactly in Iowa. I'm not going there anyway. And I saw they have a winter weather advisory.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make it there on Monday. And if our winter weather advisory is bad, theirs is like 3 times as much snow.
That's right. And
Is it
wind.
though? Do they get that much snow in Iowa? I don't know.
They don't get the lake effect stuff, but they get a lot of wind because there's nothing to stop it.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, we don't get a lot of snow here where I am in Michigan either.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I don't know.
which is part of the reason I've stayed in Michigan.
I,
Because
I, I,
if I lived in the UP or on the west side during the winter time, I don't know that I could handle it.
I feel like I've worked Des Moines a few times, but it's always been the summer, and the thunderstorms and tornado warnings are pretty serious. I was working in a basement. It was great, so I didn't have to worry about them. But I
Right.
do remember, like, I would leave the building and walk to lunch, and not very far, and like to a Subway or something, and the weather would be fine on my way to Subway, and then it would be dark as any thunderstorm you've ever seen at the time I got out.
Oh,
Bats McGee is telling us
that's
that
McGee. Man,
Mason,
we need to put you on the show.
yeah, absolutely. It's in northern Iowa, due south of Minneapolis. That's good. So I feel like Decorah is near there, but I might
Um,
be totally wrong.
I don't think so.
Okay,
Hang
I can
on.
be totally wrong. I do have a friend who flies kites. I think I've mentioned him before. Um, and this year he did not do it, but there is a kite festival west of Des Moines that he usually flies at. And there's a lake that is frozen, hopefully, and they go and they they fly their kites on the lakes. And he said sometimes the wind is so strong that it takes multiple people to get the kite down. And it's going to be really, really cold. The I'm going to get the name wrong, but they the group that runs it is the University of Okeechobee, which doesn't exist, but they have university logo gear that you can buy, and they give like the kite flyers a bunch of cups and stuff that have the logo on it, and it just sounds like a hoot. It sounds like so much fun. So, but he says they just have to it gets really cold there.
Yes, that I believe because there's absolutely nothing. I drove,
Right.
so I did that trip and I came up through Illinois into Iowa, and it was a really long drive. There's no straight shot to where I was going, so I was like curving back and forth
Uh-huh.
through the state, and there's literally nothing to look at. It was all farmland.
Yeah. Yes. I have driven to Des Moines and back. It was
So yeah, it's
yeah.
but the people there were amazing, and
Sure.
the beer in Decorah was fantastic, worth every single mile I put on my car.
The last time I was in Des Moines was quite a while ago, but I enjoyed my time at Fire Trucker Brewing. So
I just want to go back real quick because Muttbone added in to the comments. I will admit I witnessed a music bingo night at Sherwood's Brewing, and it was a blast. The entire brewery singing in unison was amazing. See, if life were more like a musical, people would be happier.
right. That's right.
I have to believe that in my heart. I've seen it happen on multiple occasions, and it does make people around them happy.
One of my friends I was talking to today at breakfast. We had a breakfast together. It was really nice. But he was saying that he and his wife started doing musical bingo every, I'm going to say Tuesday, in this little town west of me, even. So you can get west of Indianapolis, and there is still people there. Uh, that and they do musical bingo there every Tuesday, and they have a lot of fun. There's an outfit here. I can't. They're a national outfit. They branded it Singo. So
Okay.
you can probably find Singo if you want to look for that, or musical bingo. I think is the unbranded one.
All right.
So
So what else you got?
I also have a bit of a lighter one that I think will be a good one to end on. Um, I would like to talk about scientists, peas, and beer.
Of course you do.
Yes. How could I possibly pass up a chance to talk about peas and beer? So what these scientists have done, and there is actual science here, yada yada. But of course, peas and beer, and that was all I really needed. But what these scientists have done is they've taken out the pea sugar. Oh, good. I get to say pea a lot now. I didn't really think about that. They took out the pea sugar and they used it to help the fermentation with sour beers. And part of the reason there is, sour beer fermentation is like regular beer fermentation. The yeasts eat the sugars, but you want the bacteria to eat something so that they make all those delicious sour flavors in there, and the bacteria grow and and, and all that. So pea sugar, it turns out, our normal beer yeast will not digest, similar to lactose. Um, and so they did some experiments with it to where they did kind of a fast fermentation when you compare with like a normal fermentation process that let's see, they went for only 19 days. And I think that a good sour tends to age in a barrel for months. Um, but they found that after 19 days, when they did a side by side of the sour pea beer versus a normal uh, sour fermentation, that they were indistinguishable, which I think is good, at least as far as, and they were both market ready. So that is the peas and beer. There was actual science there and a reason to do it.
Um, I just wanted to hear you say peas and beer multiple times.
Right? Well, we have that now.
It's a good thing they spelled it correctly because that could have been very detrimental.
Uh-huh. I don't think they made the joke in the article once. I could put the article link in the show notes too, but
I'm impressed that they did not because I wouldn't have been able to not do that.
as Bats McGee says, what about Bud Light, which, as we all
True.
know, has been run through a horse first.
All right.
Um,
So
yep.
I have got one more for us to talk about before we end.
Okay.
I want to get it in because it actually got released today. Apparently, Hulk Hogan and the Real American Beer that he is hawking are getting sued for negligence. According to a report by Fox 8, Michelle Herlikovich from Akron, Ohio, is suing Hogan and the Real American Beer, claiming that she was hit in the head with an unopened can of beer at a promotional event. Now, I'm pretty sure we saw that article
I remember that.
earlier, like, because they did. I remember the stuff about him being booed and blah blah blah. But the lawsuit was actually filed on February 10th, alleging negligence causing injury because the beer can struck her in the forehead after it was thrown an estimated 50 feet, and she required approximately 10 stitches. So apparently, I don't know if I have my notes in here. Um, so this happened it says it happened in Akron, Ohio, but then down here, Medina Township Police responded to the incident, but charges weren't filed because the officers could not determine who threw the beer. So, which makes sense because
Yeah.
I'm sure it was a crazy event. Um, she's seeking damages for medical expenses, pain, and suffering and emotional distress. The lawyer says they really just want some accountability. He's still touring around hawking his beer. We certainly didn't want to have this happen to anybody else. So I'm just curious what you think about this, whether he should be sued or if it should be a wrong place, wrong time thing.
Well, that's for the courts to decide, I guess. But
No, I just want
it's
your opinion.
oh yeah, right. Well, no,
You don't have to tell me what the law is.
no, well, I can't do that because
That's true.
I am not a lawyer. No, I respect her ability to sue. I don't know that. Well, I don't know that this is a. This was if it had happened to me and I'm me, I would have shaken it off like, yes, okay, I went to this crazy thing that I knew would be crazy, and something crazy happened to me. I didn't sign up to get a beer can thrown at me from 50 feet away, but
Right.
I don't sign up for a lot of stuff that happens to me.
True story. I have a friend that got she still has a scar on her eyebrow because she was at I believe it wasn't Slipknot. She was at a concert, a metal concert, and she was standing outside the mosh pit, and somebody in the mosh pit picked up a midget and threw him, and he kicked her in the face when he was coming out of the mosh pit in the air at her head level, and it split her eyebrow open, and she had to go to the emergency room. They had to take her backstage and take her to the emergency room and have stitches. So, System of a Down, I think it was. But she didn't sue the band for that. Though,
No.
I mean, very rightfully, she could have technically sued the venue.
Right.
So, I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about this. I do believe that it is the people who are holding the event, it is kind of their duty to make sure that things don't get out of control like that. Like, why would you, if your beer was that good, why are people throwing it around?
Well, they're excited and having a great time, I think. But
at you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is I can't remember what's it's the history of sports things where they give the giveaway is something very throwable,
right.
And then everybody's shocked when it gets thrown.
Right.
Yeah. Who could have possibly foreseen this coming after the last 20 of these? So I don't know. She can sue if she wants to, obviously, because she has. But I don't think I would have taken that route. Do you remember? Probably not, because nobody cares about Cincinnati baseball from the 1980s or 90s. Rob Dibble, he was a bad boy pitcher for the Reds for a while. He threw a pitch from about the pitcher's mound into the center field bleachers and broke a lady's arm. And he felt awful. He apologized to her a bunch, and I don't remember how that ended up resolving. It sounded like everything was kind of amicable at some point, but yeah, it was. These things happen.
It's kind of bragging rights.
It's kind of impressive. That's a long way to throw a ball.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah,
and,
like
and
when you get hurt by something like that. I had a friend that caught a ball at a Tigers game and it broke his hand.
If it's a hit ball, that's something you expect.
Right.
You do not expect a pitcher to get angry and throw the ball into the outfield from the pitcher's mound. And that was that. I feel like there was a lawsuit. There might have been a lawsuit, and that was the reason of it. But it was probably just one of those pay the medical bills type of a situation.
Right. I think that's really what is coming down. It's coming down to is,
yeah,
someone's got to pay the medical bills because they're ridiculous right now.
Right. In this economy?
So that was my question is how do you guys feel about that? What do you think? Um, if you guys are listening to this and on the replay or whatever, let us know. Send us a message because I am curious how people feel about it. Also, let me say, I've always told this story as it's a midget, but I don't know what the actual technical term was. So I wasn't there. I got called in the middle of the night from the emergency room
Yeah.
that she got moshed by a midget.
There is
But that could just be
some
alliteration.
je ne sais quoi about it. I
Mm-hmm.
think the preferred term is little people, but it is also for a person to decide for themselves what they want to be called.
Right.
Or
Yeah,
what
I
they're
don't
happy
know.
with.
So
Yeah.
I'm just saying, don't
Yep.
hold it against me. This is the way the story is told to me. What else was I gonna say? There was something else I wanted to ask you about that.
Sorry.
No, it doesn't matter. It's all good.
I thrown a beer can? Yes, I've thrown a beer can. A full one.
A full
Plenty
one?
times. Oh, sure.
Why?
How else do you get it to your friend, who's halfway across the yard and all?
That's true. I did. Well, I mean, you don't throw it across the bar though.
No,
Or across the stadium or whatever.
I could see that in a crowded bar at a big old release party or something. If my buddy was up close to I'm sure these were in a bucket or a bathtub, because it was the American beer. If my buddy had gotten a hold of one out of what is basically a mosh pit of people trying to get the beers and would have thrown it to me across the bar.
So you could grab another one while he was there?
Yep. I could totally see that.
That makes sense. I get that.
Yeah. That's just good planning.
There was an article the other day, or somebody had sent a video or something along that line where people were throwing beers off a bridge to people in the boats on the river.
Yes, those show up every once in a while.
Yeah, so
that looks like fun.
I guess I can say, I don't know. I guess for me, injuries that you get at events like that, depending on how bad they are. I mean, I broke my arm at a concert, so I mean, that was honestly the coolest way that I've broken a bone. Everything else has been stupid. So, and even that one was kind of stupid if you think about it, but it was still at a concert.
Yeah, exactly. There was a story with it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've seen some crazy injuries at concerts, so I don't know. That I guess okay. That was my stories for the day.
Okay. I think that's good.
Yes.
So as we wrap up here, I just want to remind everyone we are currently recording the second and fourth Friday of the month. Coming up on the 28th, we are having my friend Annie, who runs Naptown Trivia, on. So speaking of music bingo, which sounds like fun, she runs pub trivia, basically. So I want to talk to her about what all goes into that. She owns Naptown Trivia. She runs it. She writes the questions. She does have other trivia hosts at other locations. So yeah, sounds like a pretty successful business, but we'll get to talk to her. So if you're interested in that or have questions for that, feel free to send them in. Let us know. You got anything else, Wendy?
I don't. Not today.
Okay.
I think we have some interesting stuff coming up, though. There's a lot of stuff going on. You're going to see us out and about a little bit in Indiana this year, which is kind of cool.
Yes, for sure.
And obviously, as things get warmer, you'll see me more in Michigan. So it's really hard to get Grandma out of the house when it's this cold.
Yeah. Okay.
So I kind of hibernate in here with her, but once things start warming up and it's springtime, I will start getting the chance to visit a lot more places and see a lot more things.
My friend and I biked to trivia, not Annie's trivia, a different one. And last night we biked there. It was 26 degrees when we left, felt like 19. And when we biked home, I believe it was a 9 and felt like 9 on our ride home.
Oh, good grief.
You don't feel all of that because we've been drinking, but you still feel it.
I'm still impressed that you're able to bike home after you've had a couple.
It's a self-regulating system.
It's got to be, actually, because you can get a ticket for riding a bike under the influence.
Yes, you absolutely can. I have talked to an officer about that, and he said you would have to be doing something pretty nuts to get pulled over.
Yes. But, and keep in mind too, anything that has a motor,
Yes,
which includes lawnmowers, if you are driving under the influence, is a ticketable offense. So
yes. There's
keep
nothing
that in
better.
mind, folks.
There's nothing better than seeing a riding mower on the interstate, and you know there's a story there. All right. With that, I think we'll wrap that up. And remember, no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's better on draft.